Hey guys, it's smeefu again, and this time I'm bringing you a guide on all things Haze. In my upcoming full build video, I will talk about other builds like the brawler version of Haze, but for now, let's focus on the version in which my opinion is the most powerful by far, and that is the ult carry Haze that focuses on her bullet dance. If you want to do things like you're seeing in the background and completely 1v6 and carry the game, melting people every time you press your ult, then this is the video for you. Please like, subscribe, and comment down below what hero you want me to cover next. I'm currently working on a 7 video, but we'll get round to other heroes you recommend. Thank you for watching, and enjoy the video.
Holy shit. Ah, that's so broken.
So, let's get started with Haze's strengths and weaknesses. Starting off with the strengths. Haze is very slippery and fast. She starts off with a pretty high base movement speed compared to the rest of the cast, and she also gets a 6 meters per second sprint speed bonus on her second upgrade of Invis. This gives her huge split push potential because she is very hard to catch, and she can also catch people out easily. This moves me on to my next point. Her gank potential is very high. Being able to put people to sleep to set up ganks for her teammates is a huge asset, early game and late game. Haze has an insane ult. At the start of the game, this ult is great for 1v1s and makes it very dangerous for someone to come close to Haze. And late game, the ult becomes the main part of her kit. Later into the game, when you get Haze's build going, she can also reliably solo the mid boss. This is something you want to be doing if your teammates have got the advantage on a push and have the enemies pinned back. You can solo mid boss without any worry of it being stolen. Late game, Haze becomes a really potent carry. She really can carry the whole team just with one ability, her ultimate. She can 1v6 with this ability. It really does become that strong. Another strength Haze has, and probably the last, is very unique to herself. Her ammo is scaling with spirit power, as you can see indicated by this little icon on her profile page. Now let's get onto Haze's weaknesses. She is very squishy. She starts off with low health, and she gets very bad health scaling per level. Her damage is weak early on, and along with squishiness, this makes her not very good at early game. She is not strong at all, and she really takes a while to get into the groove of things. Yes, she is a carry, like I spoke about before, but she is only a late game carry. You will not find Haze carrying you early game. She needs time to get her game plan going. This is definitely a weakness because sometimes on Haze, it can feel like you've lost the game before you got chance to do anything. Now let's talk about Haze's abilities. First one we have is Sleep Dagger. This dagger you throw, and when it hits an enemy, it will deal burst spirit damage and put them to sleep for 3 seconds. Then, when they take damage, they will wake up after a short delay, which actually gives you a few free shots. It's like a mini stun. This ability can be used aggressively or defensively. Very good for escaping someone trying to chase you down, and it's also very good for setting up ganks with your teammates. The first upgrade of the ability removes 1 stamina, which makes it great for using when you've come out of invis shooting someone and you've made them scramble using their stamina already, crippling them even further, allowing for a free kill. The second talent point is a minus 13 seconds cooldown, and the third talent point applies minus 12% bullet resist for 6 seconds on wake up. Haze's second ability is called Smoke Bomb. When you activate this ability, you will be invisible for 8 seconds to anyone who is not within an 18 meter radius of you. The duration of this ability also scales with spirit power, so later into the game, you can actually become invisible permanently as long as you don't cancel it. The first talent point of the ability is minus 15 seconds cooldown, which is what allows you to be able to be invisible permanently during the late game. The second talent point adds a 6 meters per second sprint speed while you're invisible to the 2 meters per second invis sprint speed that you get at the base of the ability, giving you a total 8 meters per second increase of sprint speed during invis. The third talent gives you a 30% bullet lifesteal buff for 8 seconds upon exiting the invis. This is huge for brawling and can also be a huge buff to Haze's ult. Haze's third ability is a passive called Fixation. This is very important to understand for Haze, as the hero is completely balanced around it. Shooting a target increases your bullet damage on the target by increasing the stacks of Fixation debuff applied to them. At the base, you can build up 30 stacks of this, and per stack you will gain 0.2 weapon damage. This does not start out very strong, but as the talent points go on, this becomes Haze's main damage by far. The first talent point gives you 60 spirit damage and 15% slow for 2 seconds every time you apply 20 stacks to a target. The second talent point adds 40 maximum stacks, making it 70 maximum stacks on a single target and giving it a plus 5 seconds duration before the fixation runs out. The third talent point is huge and it doubles the weapon damage per stack on the target. So now when you have 70 stacks on a target, you will be dealing a huge amount of weapon damage in comparison to the start of the game when you did not have these upgrades. This ability is what Haze is balanced around, and it's why you need to be building fire rate on Haze rather than focusing weapon damage. Fixation will give you more weapon damage than any items will ever give you, which is why you should be building fire rate to build up fixation as fast as possible. Haze is squishy and she can't afford to take long trades. This means she needs to be doing damage in a short amount of time. Building fire rate and building fixation stacks helps with this, and it is definitely the way you want to be building Haze. I'll recommend a few items in the itemization section of the video. So now we need to go a little bit in depth on Haze's fourth and final ability, Bullet Dance. This is the headstone of Haze's game plan, and it's what makes her a 1v6 monster late game. This ability's duration scales with spirit power, so late game you're going to be in your ult for over 10 seconds. At the start of the game, the ability is only really good for 1v1s, as your target's hit per shot are only 1. So even though this is a huge AoE around you, it means the more people in the AoE, the less damage you're going to deal per target, because it does not hit every target with every shot. This makes the ability only good for 1v1s and not good for teamfights early on. Haze's ultimate also applies anything to do with bullets, with some exceptions that we'll get onto soon. This means that it does apply fixation. Again, further reinforcing my point that you need to be focusing on fire rate rather than weapon damage items for Haze, because when you pop your ult, you want it to build up fixation stacks as fast as possible to get weapon damage as fast as possible across all targets. The first talent of the ability is a plus 7 weapon damage. Getting this talent early will make it very strong in 1v1s and it will melt targets. The second talent is a minus 40 seconds cooldown. The third talent is plus 1 targets hit per shot, which means now that if 2 people are standing in your ult, they're not taking half the damage each, but they're going to be taking full damage each. When you have this talent late game, you will also probably have Ricochet, which means that now, with 6 people standing in your ultimate, per shot you're going to be hitting 2 of them, and each shot that hits is going to ricochet twice, allowing you to hit 6 people with your ultimate with huge damage consistently. This is what makes Haze overpowered late game, and you really should be focusing your items on buffing this ability. We'll get onto that in the itemization section. One more thing I have to quickly note is that although Haze's bullet dance does act as actual bullets, it does not apply every single bullet interaction when it comes to items. For example, Lucky Shot. Lucky Shot is an item that is incredibly good for Haze when she is using her left click. However, it does not interact with her ultimate at all. The bullets from her ultimate will not apply Lucky Shot, and neither will the ricochets from the ultimate. This means that buying Lucky Shot will actually delay your power spike on Haze by a large amount, as it stunts the growth of her ultimate. So now let's talk about the upgrade order for Haze's abilities. This upgrade order is specifically for the ult build and not for the brawler build. In the brawler build, you'll want to be upgrading 1 and 2 much earlier, but this, in my opinion, is the best way to build Haze to make her as effective as possible as early as possible. We're going to start off with 2 points in Fixation, her 3. Then we're going to move to a point in her ultimate. Her ultimate now becomes very, very strong in 1v1, and you're going to be able to take solo ganks much easier. Now we're going to move on to the third and final point in Fixation, getting her big damage spike and power spike. Here we move on to the second and third point in her bullet dance. At this point in the game, you probably can buy Ricochet too, just giving you the biggest damage spike possible on Haze. This early in the game, opponents are really not going to be expecting your ult to be able to kill all 6 of them at once, as long as you don't get stunned during the process, because by now you definitely won't have Ricochet plus Unstoppable, you'll only have Ricochet. So once you have this point in your ult and you're looking to use it in team fights, you need to pick your moments precisely and make sure the enemies are caught off guard to get full value. Here we're going to move on to 3 points consecutively in Smoke Bomb. This is going to make Haze move around the map much more efficiently and be able to use her ultimate from Smoke Bomb at better times. This is also going to give you the bullet lifesteal upon exiting invis, which also is a huge buff to the ult, as like I spoke about before, the ultimate counts as normal bullets, so you will be getting the full value of bullet lifesteal from this talent. Then we move on to the 3 points in Sleep Dagger. For the ultimate version of Haze, I don't think Sleep Dagger upgrades are very important at all, but they're nice to pick up at the end because obviously you have to spend your talent points. There's no reason to leave them sat there. Again, I spoke about the Brawler build being different. I will have full build guide with every item I buy coming out on Haze, where I will talk about both variations of the build, the Brawler and the ultimate carry. So now let's talk about Haze's combos. The first thing I want to bring up is the wake up time on Sleep Dagger. When you sleep someone with this and then shoot them, after a short delay, 0.18 seconds with this point in the build, scales of spirit power, after a short delay from shooting them, they will wake up, which means you actually get a few free shots to the head when someone is asleep. But the main thing I want to speak on is that most people open with Sleep Dagger when it comes to ganking. I don't think this is a good utilization of the ability because they're already unsuspecting when you're coming out of invis. So why do you also need to stun them? I would go for opening invis by building up a few fixation stacks straight away. The enemy is going to be shocked. They're going to use stamina to try and get away. They might even say it's an Infernus. He might even use his flame dash. And then, after you've beamed them a little bit, you can then pop the Sleep Dagger, cancel whatever movement ability they've used, remove another stamina if they're scrambling and using up all their stamina. And now you've built up some fixation on them. Your beam to the head during the wake up time is going to be much more value, and it will secure you kills much faster. Another thing you want to do is utilize your ult in 1v1s. When you are ganking someone like this, and you've built up some fixation stacks, your ult is going to be way more effective. A lot of the time I see people running around in invis, they catch someone, sleep them, and then ult them when they have 0 fixation stacks. Now, this is like almost 100% guaranteed going to allow the opponent to escape before your fixation builds up and your ult does enough damage. So I urge you guys to get used to opening up your ganks with a little beam, shocking the opponent, then sleeping them, and either finishing them off with more shots or finishing them off with your ult. Now, because one of Haze's abilities is a passive, it does limit your combo potential when you just talk about abilities. There's not much further to go other than what we've already talked about. The way you increase Haze's combo potential is through item usage. Now, one item you should always have in the build is active reload. This is just because Haze is going to be reloading a lot, so the minus 20% reload time is great. The 20% fire rate is insane for a DPS, and the bullet lifesteal is also great. What you should be doing as Haze with this item is always running around with a few bullets already out of your mag. You don't want to use this item to reload, you want to use it as a pre-fight buff. So you go invis, you pop your active reload when you see someone, and now you have extra DPS. To take this a step further, you can add in crippling items to the combo, like Withering Whip to reduce their bullet resist, Silence Glyph to cancel the usage of all their abilities, and Knockdown to just increase your stun duration, basically giving you a second sleep, but this time there's no wake up time. They have to take bullets during the whole stun. So you can do something like this. And now during that whole thing, they're unable to move because they are silenced and they're slept. Another one you can do is by casting Knockdown, then shooting, then sleeping, shooting, and now they're stunned for even longer. With combinations like this, Haze can melt single targets very easily. If you want to play a more brawler type version of Haze, this is the sort of stuff you're going to be buying, and it's very potent in gank situations. So let's get on to some item recommendations for Haze. These are all going to buff her overall game plan and work extremely well with her kit. First off, we're going to start with early/lane items. We have Rapid Rounds. Rapid Rounds is a cheap 500 item that will cost you some health, but we'll fix that with another item soon. But it will give you a 12% fire rate bonus, allowing you to CS much more easily and build up fixation much more reliably. This also comes with an extra 1 meters per second sprint speed, allowing Haze to move around the map more freely. The next item we have is Ammo Scavenger. Ammo Scavenger is very important for Haze in lane. This is going to build up a huge clip for her where she really needs it, because Haze's damage is very negligible early game, so having a bigger clip is very important for her to be able to do absolutely anything to the opponent. And it also helps with minion clear. The third item that complements rapid rounds is extra health. Haze's health scaling is really bad, and with rapid rounds being a good item for her, you're definitely going to need extra health to offset the negative from purchasing rapid rounds and to give yourself an overall health buff. Now we have some really important items for Haze. I spoke about how fire rate is the biggest increase to Haze's damage possible because of the way it interacts with Fixation, so now we're going to pick up Swift Striker. Swift Striker recently got a buff where it also gives 10% extra ammo on top of the 22% base fire rate that it adds. This is incredibly powerful for Haze. As a 1250 item, there is no better value item for Haze's game plan in the game. After this, we're going to move on to Active Reload. Active Reload is also extremely strong for Haze. Again, with the active being a plus 20% fire rate bonus, but also coming along with a plus 22% bullet lifesteal for the duration of the active. I like to use this item as a pre-fight buff, popping it before I come out of invis, giving myself lifesteal and fire rate to burst someone down in a gank. The next item we're going to talk about is bullet lifesteal. This is going to give Haze 28% extra bullet lifesteal permanently, stacking with the 20% bullet lifesteal you will get from Active Reload. So when you pop Active Reload, you will get 48% bullet lifesteal total. This shoves Haze's survivability through the roof and is a very, very big sustain power spike for her. It also works with your ult, meaning that late game, when you're hitting multiple targets with your ult, you're almost unkillable. Now we'll move on to Quicksilver Reload. Purple items are also important on Haze because her ammo scales with spirit power, and so do many of her abilities' durations. Quicksilver Reload is important because it gives fire rate, again, which is very huge for Haze, and it also will give you an extra mag when you pop it. I like to bind this to my Sleep Dagger and use the combo I showed you before in the previous section, where I start off out of invis by shooting someone and then use Sleep Dagger mid-beam to get the fire rate bonus and full mag reload and beam them down even more. Moving on to endgame items, the first one we have is Ricochet. This item is undoubtedly the most important item in Haze's builds. If you're missing this item, your ultimate will never spike to the level you need it to become an ultimate endgame carry. We spoke about before how her ultimate will use Ricochet and will enable you to hit 6 targets at once with your ultimate, making you a 1v6 monster. The ricochets from this item will also apply Fixation, just making it work perfectly with Haze's kit. Another plus to this item is that your farming speed will go through the roof. Your wave clear and jungle clear is incredibly fast now you have purchased this. The next endgame item I want to talk about is also extremely important for Haze, and it is Unstoppable. Haze's ultimate is going to become a huge pain for the enemy, which means they're going to look to stun you or curse you any chance they get during your ult. Unstoppable means that you will be able to channel your full duration of the ultimate, and the enemies have nothing they can do about it other than try to get out of the AoE. Next, we have Silencer. I just said with Unstoppable that now you have that item, the only way people are going to be able to deal with your ultimate is by getting out of it. Silencer is going to help you keep them in it. It comes with a 25% bullet slow on every bullet that hits, but also when you use the active, all of your bullets will apply a silencing effect to the enemy for 4 seconds, and the debuff duration lasts for 2 seconds, meaning you can silence targets for up to 6 seconds, which is more than enough time to kill people with your ultimate. Ricochet plus Silencer plus Unstoppable makes your ult the true 1v6 parry ability. Now on to some other items that are great with Haze's kit. We have Vampiric Burst first. This item upon activation will give you a buff for 4.5 seconds of 100% bullet lifesteal and 40% fire rate. I'm sure you already understand why this is amazing for Haze. It's going to make you pretty much unkillable during your ult as long as you're hitting targets and lifestealing, and it's also going to buff your damage heavily and increase the rate at which you apply Fixation. Another great item to further buff Haze's ult is Improved Reach. Imbuing this on your ultimate will make the AoE massive. At the same time, Improved Reach will actually improve the reach of Ricochet's range. This means that even if only 2 or 3 of the enemies are inside your ultimate's AoE, as long as their teammates are close enough, they will still be getting hit by the ricochets from your ult, making it extremely hard to avoid taking damage from this ultimate ability. Another purple item I want to talk about is Bullet Resist Shredder. Upon taking spirit damage, enemies' bullet resist will be reduced by 12%. Haze does have access to spirit damage just by shooting people, and that is through Fixation. We spoke about before how every 20 stacks that an enemy receives of Fixation, they will also take some spirit damage. This will apply the bullet resist minus for 8 seconds to enemies, again buffing your ultimate and your left click. The last item I want to talk about is Shadow Weave. Now Haze already has access to invisibility, so Shadow Weave isn't really used for that reason. Shadow Weave is used for the buff on the active. When you come out of Shadow Weave's invisibility, you gain 40% fire rate, which is obviously great for, again, increasing the speed at which you apply Fixation to enemies, but it also gives you plus 55 spirit power upon exiting the invis, which means that if you engage in Shadow Weave and pop your ultimate, it will increase the duration of the ultimate by a huge amount because the duration scales with spirit power. Now for the final section of the video, I want to give you some macro tips and explain how Haze likes to play the game. First thing you want to know is that Haze is extremely weak early game. Don't be expecting to carry early. This means you need to farm efficiently because she comes online late game, and as long as your team makes it to late game, you will probably win the game due to Haze's power. Using this knowledge, you want to be farming all the time and usually away from your team. She does not have that much impact in teamfights, apart from maybe setting up 1 or 2 ganks with her sleep dagger. After laning phase, you want to be away from the team while they create space for you during teamfights. You will use that space to create split pushes. During split pushes, you'll be getting souls from minions, and you'll also be putting pressure on enemy objectives. Jungling is also something Haze is very good at and should be looking to do very often. Haze needs to get ahead, and she needs a lot of money to come online. So jungle is something you have to be doing on Haze. But the most important thing to think about here is to make sure you are not missing waves. If you are only jungling and you are missing waves, you're going to be losing pressure on the side of the map that you're on, and you're also going to be missing out on a huge amount of souls. Later into the game, waves will actually give you more souls than jungle will per minute. So missing waves is an efficient way to stunt your growth. Each minion will actually end up giving you around 100 souls plus per minion, so this means when the enemy is pushing a wave and creates a double wave, when you clear it, you will actually get more than any jungle camp in the game. So like I said, make sure you're jungling, but please make sure you're not missing waves by doing it. Make sure to weave in clearing waves and jungling efficiently. Another thing to note is that Haze can join fights. She is good at dishing out damage and setting up ganks, like I said. However, you need to be careful that you don't have too many unsecured souls from jungling when you join these fights. Haze is very squishy, so if she dies and loses her bag and stunts her growth, it's really bad for her team overall. Haze can solo the mid boss reliably, while her teammates push with advantage. This is not something that will happen often, but definitely look for opportunities for it. If your team has just gotten a few picks, and you have some free objectives to push, and they don't want to do the mid boss because they might not get the chance to do the objectives, you can let your team push these objectives and keep the enemy pinned back while you solo the mid-boss. A combination of bullet lifesteal and high fire rate allows Haze to reliably kill the mid-boss on her own. Late game, Haze really comes online when her ult is upgraded and she has Ricochet, Unstoppable, and maybe even Silencer. Every time your ult is off cooldown, you want to be looking to take part in fights. You will get the majority of the kills in these teamfights with your ult, allowing you to snowball even harder and stay even more ahead. By this point in the game, the enemies are going to find it very hard to deal with you, and you need to take advantage of how powerful your ultimate really is and just keep snowballing and staying ahead. Thank you guys for watching my beginner guide on Haze. I will have a full build video coming out, covering every single item I buy in the best ult build, and an alternative brawler playstyle build for Haze. In the meantime, please like, subscribe, and comment down below which hero you would like to see next. I'm currently working on the 7 video, but I will get round to other heroes you request. Thank you, and goodbye.